Welcome to Module 1, Introduction to Aquatic Invasive Species. In this module, we're going to start with the basics and learn the 7 terms used to describe a species within a certain area: native, non-native, introduced, established, invasive, nuisance, and range change. These 7 terms came from 11 scientists at the University of Florida who came together to talk about the need for the same terms to be used by both scientists and the public moving forward to reduce confusion when talking about invasive species. The goal of this module is to increase understanding of invasive species by teaching these 7 standardized terms. Once you understand these terms, you'll be well on your way to understanding the following modules. Every species has a native range, meaning a place in the world where it's originally from. A native species is a species that occurs naturally in a specified location, such as a region, water body, state, etc. For example, the common snapping turtle is native to the eastern United States. It originated in the eastern United States and evolved in the eastern United States. Therefore, it is native to the eastern United States. When a species does not occur naturally in a specified location, it is called a non-native species. A non-native species was introduced to a new area it did not originally inhabit, either by accident, on purpose, or naturally. The Asian swamp eel is native to northern India, to Burma, and China, and is now found around Tampa and South Florida. Its method of introduction to Florida is unknown, but it could have been on purpose, released, or an accidental escape into the wild. An introduced species is a non-native species brought to a new location on purpose or by accident by humans that can be helpful or harmful. The butterfly peacock bass was introduced on purpose into Southeast Florida in 1984 by the Florida Game and Freshwater Fish Commission, now called the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. It was introduced as a game species to eat other non-native fish and for anglers to catch. It is native to the Amazon River Basin and northeastern South America. Many studies have been done to understand any impacts that the butterfly peacock bass may have on other fishes, and no moderate or severe impacts have been found. The butterfly peacock bass is limited to its introduced area in southeast Florida because it cannot survive in cold temperatures and salt water. It can't move north where it gets colder, and it can't use the estuary or ocean to spread its range. This introduced fish generates over $8 million a year to the sport fishing industry, making it a beneficial introduced species. An established species is a species having a self-supporting and reproducing population in a specified location, without the need for human assistance, meaning it can live, reproduce, and spread on its own. This term applies to both native and non-native species. Technically, all native species are established in a given area, so the use of the word established is more helpful when defining a non-native species. Some native species, such as crops, like corn and wheat, need human assistance to survive, so they wouldn't be considered established. For example, the native Florida mottled duck is established in Florida's wetlands and other freshwater systems, where it thrives on its own. The Muscovy duck is found in Florida, but it is not native to Florida. It is native to Mexico, Central America, South America, and some parts of Texas. It was introduced to Florida as a pet and for ornamental purposes. Eventually, the Muscovy duck established itself here in Florida by reproducing on its own, reproducing often, and spreading out to new areas. An invasive species is a non-native species that was introduced by humans, on purpose or by accident, and causes or can cause harm to the environment, economy, or humans. Lionfish are invasive species. They are reproducing rapidly and eating native fishes on reefs and structures in high amounts, causing environmental harm. Another example is the Burmese python. They are eating a wide range of native animals and birds in the Everglades and therefore are causing environmental harm. Red-eared sliders are invasive to Florida because they are breeding with the native yellow-bellied slider, another example of environmental harm. Asian tiger mosquitoes cause human harm by being a carrier of West Nile virus and other diseases. Notice that invasive species come in all shapes and sizes. They can be anything: plants, animals, insects, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. A nuisance species is an individual or group of individuals of the same species that causes management issues or property damage, presents a threat to public safety, or is an annoyance. A nuisance species can be a native or non-native species. Invasive species typically have qualities that make them a nuisance also, but they are labeled as invasive rather than nuisance. Native cattails are considered a nuisance to many wetlands in Florida because their aggressive growth over large areas causes management issues. The vermiculated sailfin catfish is an invasive fish in Florida and is considered a nuisance, especially in South Florida. The males dig burrows into the banks of rivers, ponds, ditches, dikes, and levees during the mating season, and in high numbers, all of those burrows weaken the edges of the water bodies. Not only do the burrows increase the rate of bank erosion and make the water cloudy or murky, but damage to dikes and levees is costly to repair. Last is range change. Range change is when a species' current or existing range grows larger, smaller, or shifts over time. A range is a geographic area that a species lives in. Range change can happen on its own or because of humans, and it applies to both native and non-native species. Changes to waterways, like building channels and canals, connect waters that weren't connected before. If water conditions are right for species, they may use or travel through the new channels and canals to different water bodies. Florida natives, like snook and mangroves, have expanded their range north of Tampa Bay due to the increase in temperatures and fewer freezes in central to North Florida. The invasive Cuban tree frog, native to Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and the Bahamas, found its way to Florida, most likely as a stowaway in shipping crates, in the 1920s. It has established itself throughout most of Florida, with some small populations in the Florida Panhandle where winters are colder. A potential range expansion north into the rest of the Panhandle, the southeastern United States, warmer regions, and cities is not out of the question. The Mayan cichlid is an excellent example of a range change of a non-native species. The Mayan cichlid is native to the Atlantic slope of Central America and Mexico, but it was first documented in the northeastern portion of Florida Bay in 1983. They cannot survive in water temperatures less than 15 degrees Celsius. Fast forward to present day, scientists have reported Mayan cichlids as far north as Merritt Island on the east coast of Florida and in Tampa Bay on the west coast. When the temperatures drop in these more northern areas, Mayan cichlids can take cover in areas that have deep canals to keep warm. Not only have they found ways to survive during cold weather events, but they can also tolerate fresh water and salt water. This means that they can use estuaries, lakes, canals, rivers, wetlands, and pretty much any body of water to spread. Additionally, Mayan cichlids are aggressive towards other fish and protect their nest to increase the survival of their young. All of these traits make the Mayan cichlid a successfully established non-native fish in South Florida, with its range expanding northward. With increasing temperatures and fewer freezes in parts of Florida, this will assist the northward expansion of the Mayan cichlid. For more information on the 7 terms we just learned, I encourage you to review the following 2 articles. These articles review the terms, provide more examples, and suggest terms to avoid when describing a species.